Shalom. Let's start out by giving praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone, salutations to the hopeful elect that's pushing this truth across four corners of the earth, our faith, truth, and sincerity. I'm gonna want to buy back and get enough sitting. That's what we're going to about how this image I got right here. I say, and it says one thing about them tables, they always turn. So you have these so-called white people, red people, which are Edomites, the ones that's in rulership right now. They have their, they having a time of rule and being wicked, because they are the wicked, But it's gonna come a time where their time of rulership is gonna come to an end, which we are at the end of their rulership. We are at the end of the so-called white man Esau Edomites rulership. And it's gonna come to a point where they got their time of rule, but it's gonna come to an end, and you're gonna have the so-called Negro, Latino natives, which are Israelites. Yahushai, the house of David, the elect of Israelites. It's gonna be starting with Yahushai, Yahushai, King David, house of David, the elect of the so-called Negro, Latino natives, which are Israelites. It's gonna be the next rulers of everything. The next rulers of more. Gonna be the next, the next, the next power, to be over everything, the earth. It ain't gonna be China, not gonna be Ishmael, China, which is Moab. It's not gonna be over there in Iran and so forth. Them Arabs and so forth. It's not gonna be Ishmael. It's not gonna be those, and those over there in India, over there in over there in India. It's not gonna be which are Elam. It's not gonna, they not gonna be the next, ones to be in power and rulership. The next power, to be in rulership, the next nation, to be in rulership would be the so-called Negro, Latino, Native Israelites. But it's all about, it's gonna be, starting, like I said, with Yahushai, the house of David, the elect of the Israelites. It's gonna be, and there's rulers, to take over, and have control everything, and the king, and that rulership gonna be forever. So-called Negro, Latino, Native Israelite rulership gonna be forever. Ain't gonna be no timeline. So you so-called white people, Esau to my devils, your time of rulership, is, it's gonna come, it's gonna come to an end. Them tables turn, man. Y'all gonna have to deal with, being at the bottom and in slavery. Excuse me. But I'm gonna get into it. This Lamentations 4:21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellers in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. The cup shall also pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. So rejoice, be glad, you so-called white people, Esau Edomite devils, which, you so-called white people, which really are red, you red devils, y'all are Edom, y'all the Edomites, and this is y'all time of rule. Rejoice, better joy, why you can, because Lord Yahushua is going to return, and bring you so-called white people, Esau Edomite devils out of the power seat, You know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna have to deal with that cup of slavery. Y'all gonna have to deal with it. it's gonna be your turn, to be in bondage and these in shackle chains, and you had to deal with getting beat across the head with a rod of iron and so forth. Y'all gonna have to deal with the pain, the pain and the afflictions and so forth that y'all done to the so-called Negro, Latino natives, which are Israelites, gonna come back on y'all. It's gonna come upon y'all. Yeah, y'all not gonna escape y'all judgment. You elites, you bankers and so forth, man. That's trying to, y'all gonna go try to hide in y'all bunkers, trying to escape the wrath of the Lord Yahushua. The judgment of the Lord Yahushua. But that's not gonna happen, because y'all gonna go into slavery. Y'all not gonna escape y'all judgment. It is written. And don't run into hiding. You're gonna have to deal with that, going to slavery, man. And dealing with, like I say, whatever y'all got coming to y'all, whatever y'all got to do, working day in, day out, and getting your backs breaking, breaking your back, whatever, y'all got you wicked Edomite devils y'all got a lot of things y'all have to pay for, what y'all done to the so-called Negro, Latino natives, which are the Israelites, But go from there. Lamentations 4:22. The punishment of thy iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. So-called Negro Zion, which is the so-called Negro Latino natives, which are the Israelites. Our punishment in captivity is coming to an end. We're at the end of it, for real. Really at the end of it, and it's coming to an end. And I say this is gonna be the last. This is gonna be the last nation that the so-called Negro Latino native Israelite, that the so-called Negro Latino natives, which are the Israelites, is gonna be under this nation, being under this nation of captivity, under these Edomites. These are the last. This is the last one. This is the last. Being under another nation and being at the bottom. No more going to captivity, slavery. This is it. And like I say, and the only ones that gonna be delivered to escape the wrath and judgment of the Lord Yahweh Bashan Yahushua is the elect of the so-called Negro Latino natives, Israelites, the elect of Israel. And like I say, and the Lord Yahweh Bashan Yahushua is gonna come visit you, visit you so-called Negro Latino native Israelites. Your Lord Yahushua gonna make his return, and I say he gonna take you Edomite devils out of power, out of the power seat. Y'all time of rulership is coming down. Is at an end, man. Y'all time of rulership is winding up. Y'all don't have much time left, man. The days are speeding up. Time is speeding up. So this is the last captivity. The last punishment for the so-called Negro, Latino, Native Israelites. But go from there. It's Isaiah 14:1. For the Lord Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the stranger shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. So the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua will have mercy on Jacob. Still, gonna have mercy on Jacob, man. But they start with, and this time with the elect of the so-called Negro Latino natives. Because like I say, two-thirds of Israelites 2/3 Israelites, so-called Negro, Latino natives. In this lifetime, in this time, they not gonna repent. They not going to come into the wisdom, knowledge of the Lord Yahshua. Because they love the things of this world. They are indulged into the things of the world. The demons got a hold of 2/3 Israelites. Is it just ain't no hope for them in this time. In this lifetime. But that 2/3 Israelites, they'll come back in the kingdom as babies. I say, me, myself, and those that believe in Lord Yahshua in this truth, that teach this truth and push it, to the best of the ability and so forth. To keep this wisdom, knowledge of Lord Yahweh, and not getting into any other philosophies and so forth. Lord Yahweh is gonna have mercy on the elect. Hopefully, like I said, I'll probably write your number. But that's what it is. The elect is gonna only the elect. If you're that number, Lord Yahshua is gonna have mercy on and deliver you in these times going forward and when He returns. So and once Lord Yahshua returns and take down the so-called white man Esau, Edomite devils out of power. Once the smoke clears from the fire, once the smoke clears, from the thermonuclear missiles being shot, toward, on America, Babylon the Great, and other countries. Once the smoke clears, you're gonna have those that well, I'll say this. Well, I'll say this. I just say this. So those that they don't know that they're Israelites. They think that they're are Chinese or Arab, India, over there in India. India. You have those that might think they of other nations. They might look like other nations. You have those that of Israelites that look like other nations. But they not of those other nations. They are Israelites. You might have those that look like a Moabite or Edomite. You might have those that might look like an Edomite or what I'm saying, Ishmael. You might have those that might think they Arab, Ishmael, whatever. Excuse me, or Ishmael, but they're Israelites. So it's about their bloodline. So right here when it says, and the stranger shall be joined with them, they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. So those that they think that they see themselves as as the other nation, but they not. They gonna cleave unto like I said, it says house of Jacob, house of Israel, because it's a spirit. It's it's a spiritual thing. It's like it's a bloodline thing, it's a spiritual thing. They're gonna cleave. Say, oh, this is why, this is my people. This is my people that I belong. This is my people who I'm with. I'm a tribe, or I belong with the Israelites. I belong to the Israelites. I'm an Israelite. Even though you might look like, I say, another nation. You're an Israelite by blood. But
Strong's H1616.
Stranger.
Gar.
Excuse me.
Gar.
So,
and the form just below that, Gair. Gair.
Just below that, Gair. So it's Gar and Gair. Let's see something. Yeah, so there's Strong's H1616. Gair, Gar. So I'm going to it. So I'll go to the biblical usage. It says, see what Strong's information says. So I'll go to the Strong's, and then it says, a guess. by implementation, excuse me, by implementation of a foreigner, alien, sojourner, stranger. Excuse me, I'm saying that word wrong. Well, I'm going to the biblical usage. It says sojourner, a temporary inhabit, a newcomer, lacking inherited rights, or foreigners in Israel through conceded rights. But the thing here is it says a temporary inhabit, a newcomer, lacking inherited rights. So, you're gonna have Israelites, like I say, look like other nations, but they're Israelites, because you had Israelite men that dealt with other that had sexual encounters, or had sex with other women of other nations, but they Israelites. Just because Israelite have sex with other Israelite other nation of women, of these other nations, that don't mean that they are heathens. No, they're Israelites by blood. So you gonna have those that look. You gonna have Israelites that look like other nations, but they're Israelites. They're Israelites. So they're gonna they're gonna come to the understanding or realization in their mind or spirit. It's gonna come upon it. I'm an Israelite. Especially in these times. But but that's what it is. With that. But let's see. I'm gonna go see next verse. Yeah. So I'm going to the next verse, Isaiah 14:2. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord Yahweh for servants. Yahweh Bashan shall for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressor. So that's what's coming. To you so-called white people, Esau and my doubles, like I say, y'all gonna go, in change, in chains, and like I said, get whipped it, beat it, whatever, across the head. And you other nations, y'all gonna get it too, but y'all ain't gonna get it bad as the Edomites, so-called white people, red people. The Edomites gonna get it bad, man. Y'all gonna get it worse than all the other nations, once the so-called Negro, Latino natives, Israelites, be in rulership, so I say, that's what's coming, man. Them tables gonna turn, man, and that's what's coming, And you Edomites, say you could try to figure out how to, try to escape your judgment, but it ain't gonna work. It's already written, it's already set in stone, as you say, for you so-called white people, Esau and my doubles, for y'all, your time of rulership of kingdom go down. And, then, like I said, the so-called Negro, Latino natives, which are the Israelites, going to be the next rulers, or be go from being from the bottom to the top. And you Edomites going to go from the top to the bottom. And, once you so-called white people, red people, Edomite devils, y'all time of slavery is done, what y'all got to do. After 1,000 years of slavery, y'all gonna be done away with, the nation of Edomites gonna be done away with. So, with that, I didn't want to make this too long. I just want to go into that. Hope this was edifying. So again, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rakakadash, to the apostles, elders, to the Sisakian brothers, to the few Akwaf sisters that do listen, keep the faith in Yahushua. With that, I say, keep fighting.